Of Kenya Certificate of Primary Education and Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education examinations candidates are missing from schools, with the tests set to begin in 3 weeks. Now, the unfolding situation raises fears that the number of candidates who might miss the examinations this year will be higher than in previous editions. Meanwhile, Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i on Monday ordered the immediate arrest of adults responsible for the teenage pregnancies in Trans Nzoia County. Now, over 10,000 teenage girls are reported to have been impregnated, which is the highest number in the country to have been recorded in a single county. The CS further banned overnight traditional funeral ceremonies, commonly known as disco matanga, which provide a fertile ground for adults to prey on teenage girls with immediate effect. Listen in.
Kuna watu ambao wako na tabia ya kuangalia watoto wasichana wa miaka 18 kurudi nyuma. Unaangalia mtoto akianza kutembea, roho yako inaanza kutunda. Kabla na tembea chaanguka na sisi tutaanguka na wewe. Si ni ukweli jameni? Tuache watoto wasome ama namna gani? Na kama wewe uko na raha ya kuona uniform, pimia bibi yako uniform. Hii ukitaka kuona mtoto nataka kutamani, utamani uniform ya bibi yako ende wapi? Nyumbani.
The only saddening thing that I have to say here with a measure of shame and frustration is that this county now is actually leading the country in the number of teenage pregnancies amongst our children. We have 10,000 school-going kids here. Ni mambo ya hii kitu inaitwa disco matanga. Ti watoto wanaenda huko sijui kufanya nini. I'm told that the policy here is when someone has died, we must replace the deceased. Tunaenda huko to replace the deceased na watoto wetu, kucheza na watoto wetu. So tumekubaliana na county security team hapa, that thing is banned. Where is the county police commander? Where bana? There will be no disco matanga in Trans Nzoia from now forever. Tumekubaliana. Mahali nafanyika unafika hapo, you know what we do kwa watu wa security.
You know, when the CS is talking about disco matanga, it reminds me about my village mates where I come from. We really like disco matangas, but then what caught my attention is shonea bibi yako uniform, uanze kutamani uniform yake, usitamani uniform ya mtoto mchanga. So let me bring in the Crew Program Development Manager, Angeline Sikanda. So, Miss Angeline, let me just begin. I'd like to pick your mind on the sentiments by the two leaders.
Wow. It's interesting that we've equated the bigger problem to the issue of the uniform. It's bigger than that. I think the Member of Parliament simply mentioned one of the aspects that perpetrators claim to be the attraction towards the young people, which is the uniform. But it's bigger than that, where there are individuals in our country whom in European context would probably be equated to what we call pedophiles. Adults who are attracted to sexual engagement with younger people who are below the age of 18. And as our law goes, these are young children who are below the age of consent at 18, and therefore it is actually an illegality in itself. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So this doesn't have to do with how these young girls dress.
No,
it's about morality.
It's about morality. It is about our value system. It's about our sex education, and how we treat our young people and how we value them and what we aspire for them in terms of the future. So, yeah, it's more than that.
But then, you know, this is not the first time the country, within the education sector, leaders are talking about teenage pregnancies that has led to a high number of candidates missing exams. And with just 3 weeks, you know, the ministry is concerned that we are actually not going to have these candidates sit for their exams.
Well, this problem has been there perennially, I mean, for years. The only thing that has been different is that with the COVID pandemic, government has been more deliberate in terms of literally demanding of schools to give records, and therefore we're able to track over time where the children, as you recall, as of last year, even during the COVID pandemic, our children were at home. And so parents had the struggle of trying to figure out, what do you do with girls and boys when they're at home? They don't have school, which used to be what used to engage them. And now they have all this free time at home. How do you engage them? What do you do with them? If you're not used to having conversation or activities with them, then it becomes a challenge to think through what are the new things you can do within the context that we had. And now when the schools reopened, what we noticed is that most of them didn't report back. And the CS for Education demanded that every school give a record of where their students are. If they're not there, then it was paramount that the schools try and find out what exactly is happening. And so hence the records you are seeing where when they went to try and figure out where the girls were, where the boys were, majority of those who were missing were the girls. And when they were trying to find out why they didn't go back to school, they were pregnant. And so the pregnancy had advanced to a stage such that it may be difficult for them to sit in for the exams, in the coming exams in this month.
So who's actually failed in this whole process? Is it the parents, the students themselves, or the government?
Everybody has failed. Our parents being the first, because they are the first contact to their children. It is on us upon parents to take responsibility for their children, to be able to account for where they are, what they are doing, and to guide them through that process. So we find that, one, parents have let go of their responsibility and they're allowing our children to be at their own mercy. With the COVID pandemic, there's been a lot of access to the internet and social media, social media, the TV, and nobody's monitoring what our children are doing. They have this, this mind that is out there looking for exciting things, that wants to learn, impressionable, and everything to the world is new. And so they want to understand more. And if there's no proper guidance, they are bound to get into any activity without knowing the effects of what they're about to do. Also, government has failed because sex education is taught very late in our schools. And if you look at the sexual debut, we're talking about girls who are as young as 10 years old. If you look at our curriculum, they're expecting that this girl will learn about sex education at the point when she's about 17, 18, which is a lie. Our lifestyles and cultural practices are such that sex is learned much earlier than that. And so it's upon the education system to relook again at the sex education curriculum and see how best to be able to discuss these issues with our young children, even as young as they are, so that as they grow up, they understand where is sex placed. We cannot deny that they know what it is. The question is to know where and when is it practiced, at what age is it appropriate.
But then, Sikanda, when the government has been talking about sex education, this is something that needs to be introduced in schools, we've seen a lot of opposition, especially from the clergy, saying that we need to find the right time to introduce such kind of an education sort of syllabus, quote unquote, in the learning institutions.
That has been the pushback that we've largely received from the religious side of our community, where they look at it from a moral perspective, because in their understanding, the expectation is that parents will do their due diligence and be able to educate the children. The reality is that they are not. They're expecting the teachers to do so. So there must be a complementary process whereby whatever the teachers teach is complemented with the learnings at home. Whatever the community accepts and abhors is able to be reflected in the morals of the society. The reality is that has gone off. We used to be taught by our aunties and uncles. Those structures are no longer working. Where do you learn about your sexual education? Is it from your mother? Is it from your father? If you don't have a platform to engage with these parents, then where is the child supposed to learn this? And so they are left to their peers, they're left to their own devices, they're left to the phones and the internet where they're learning about this. And now the internet has no system of sieving. So the end result is that it's much easier to access the wrong information than the right information. And then they see clarity. Most of the time, parents will look at their children as being immoral or to be having, some delinquency of sorts. And the law is also very clear in terms of the action it will take, whereby, for example, if it's a young boy experimenting on sexual issues, if they are found, then they're imprisoned.
Right.
while the girl is left to go home and take care of the child. And so there have been questions around that. And so the bigger challenge has been that the parenting we do is complemented with the education that the children are learning, and that we all speak in the same language.
But then, yes, we're talking about, it's good you say that the parenting that, parents give to their children has to be in tandem with what their children learn. But let's look at that, the figure of Nandi County, what was, what I gave out when I was introducing the story that went on air. And, Nandi County alone reported that 6,000 girls had become pregnant. Now, 289 between the ages of 10 and 14 years, and another 5,717 aged between 15 and 19 years. These are girls who've become pregnant. And this has been based on the fact that during the 10 months that learners were at home, parents lost their jobs, and some of these girls were actually sent out to fend for families. So probably they're arguing that this led to this high, this high number of teenage pregnancy.
That is true. There are parents who are known that during the COVID pandemic, they did ask their children to get out there and find means to fend for their needs. Or they were lacking certain items. For example, sanitary towels. We know girls who've come to us and said, they were, in exchange for sanitary towels, then people asked for sex. In return for money for food, somebody asked for sex, and they're being told, just something that you have, and it's within their reach. And so without really thinking, without understanding, then they find themselves being coerced into this scenario. And that's why we talk about age and consent, that their mind is not yet developed to a level where they're able to really figure out, especially issues matter sexuality, on what is right and what is wrong. And so they're relying, and what we are seeing is that the people who are, encouraging these girls into this kind of acts are adults, actually. These are individuals who are above 18, even much older. We have also seen in some of our rural communities whereby they are even going ahead to negotiate for dowry and marriage at that age, because with the COVID pandemic and they didn't have means, they're looking at these children as a source of livelihood, which is very wrong in our communities. And so that's when we say, government has failed, because we should have been able to cushion and find opportunities for parents to find alternative means of earning a living without looking at their children as a means to an end to the issues that they're going through.
And when we talk about the failure by the government, I'd like us to look at some of the laws and the policies that have been put in place, by the government through Parliament as a way of protecting the girl child in the country.
Yeah, we have the Children's Act that's very explicit. Anyone below the age of 18 is a child. We have the Sexual Offences Act that explicitly defines what defilement is, because for any sexual encounter with a child, then you're talking about defilement, whether it is a boy, whether it is a girl, because also we have cases of sodomy that are also on the increase. And so our young boys are also saying they're not going back to school because they're being sodomized by the adults within the environment. It could be relatives, it could be teachers, it could be friends out there and neighbors. So the law is very explicit that these are sexual offences, and there are parameters, and there is sentencing for that if you're found culpable. For children who are engaging in sexual encounter in terms of just experimenting as young children would, then as in the recent judgments you've had, the courts are now asking for rehabilitation. So there's counselling for these children so that they also learn that while this happened, it is wrong. And moving forward, then they're able to learn where is the appropriate place for sex and when and how. And that's when now you bring in the religious bits. If you're a religious family, it's when you bring the cultural aspects. Where is sex placed? Because it should at least be able to allow someone to be an adult to understand what they're doing.
But then there is an argument that as much as you have the laws and policies that protect the girl child here in the country, it may not seem to be very effective. The reason being, when it comes to parents of the learners who've been assaulted by grown-ups, there is that, let's settle it out of court, let's hide it as a way of trying to avoid that embarrassment. And so there's some parents who feel like this law is actually not even protecting the girl child because of the traditional mechanism of trying to solve this out of court.
Well, the law is meant for man, so to speak, that the law is meant for protection. But unfortunately, not all community members are willing to engage with it. It's very clear on what to do and where to go. For example, it's expectant that the complainant, who would be either ideally the guardian of the child, to come forth and report and say, hey, this has happened to my child, because you're the first person who observes a difference and change in your child to realize that maybe they're pregnant and to say, hey, what happened? So it is important that the families come forth, one, and report to the authorities. We do have units which are meant to investigate those kind of incidences. And so then the next stage is for investigations to be done before, so that there's evidence to present the case in court. Unfortunately, the process takes a while, and so people are impatient. They want quick fixes. They want quick solutions. We want this person in jail tomorrow. But there's due process to be able to demonstrate that indeed the crime that has been alluded to can be proven, and therefore this is the person who did this, and therefore the sentencing is in line with the crime and what has transpired. So unfortunately, that's where the families go wrong, because they want to meet their need. Secondly, it's around the perpetrator, because if it's a close family member, then it tends to break the family. And so, for example, if it's a father who's defiled a daughter, you can realize how that will change the family dynamics. This is the breadwinner, and the family is asking themselves, how do we go about this? If the breadwinner is in prison, where do you get our livelihood from? If we allow the breadwinner to stay, how do we make sure we support the individuals who's been defiled? Where do they go? Do they have places where we can take them? And so when you say the government has failed, we don't have sufficient shelters in this country where we can take such girls, for example. So they are away from the violent home, they are away from the violent community, and they can be somewhere safe where they can receive some counseling, get help, help them to adjust to the new norm, which is now being a mother, and help them to reintegrate back once they deliver the child and can continue with their learning.
All right. Angeline Sikanda, Program Development Manager, talking to us about that concern that the government has right now, and they're waiting to see how they'll handle it, because so many candidates will not sit for their national examinations this year because of early teenage pregnancies. But then, to another story, where since December 2019, when the first wave of